I've had survivors send me maps. You know, I'm a one-man army. I can't do
It's
anything.
huge, and it's the
yeah.
There's a big one in Pennsylvania, and
I've got the one in Pennsylvania. I've got a map of all that.
This one's in Nebraska. It's off I-80.
Yeah.
And there's even somebody was telling us that the first rest area or something after Lincoln is the gathering point where they pick them up, take them, and then get from that rest area to the compound. They just drop them off on the interstate. It was the first one after one of the rest areas right after Lincoln. Was Sandy was telling us that. Gary found that out.
You're right. It did come from Sandy.
Yeah. She said that one of the rest areas there was a dropping point for.
It's big.
For,
yeah, you need to talk to Sandy.
Yeah. I think it was Sandy.
Let me get through this first. And my 3 books.
Well, if you want some of her stuff for this tape, too.
Well, this is Sandy, isn't it?
Kara Dory.
Oh, I'm going to talk to Sandy, yeah. We'll talk to her in January. Yeah. Definitely going to talk to her. Well, let's get out of these people's lives.
At this, at this auction that you went to, did the kids, who were some of the buyers?
Just there was a Jewish guy, I think 3 or 4 Middle Easterners, and a couple American business people.
Was this in Lincoln?
Las Vegas.
Oh.
When they bought the kids, what were some of the prices they went for? Do you remember?
15 to 50,000 plus.
Were they all boys, or were they boys and girls, or?
It was mainly boys, but there were a couple girls in it that were, you know, a little bit older.
Were the kids all drugged into submission by that point?
From what I can tell you.
I mean, kind of a daze, so they didn't act out or try to get away or get bizarre.
Yeah.
We talked about Aquino.
A lot.
Everybody's talked about Aquino.
The fact that his ex-wife or somebody's been, what's her name, Linda Blood's been calling and trying to.
We didn't talk about the fact that Linda's been calling me, or did call me asking me if I was sick yet. I don't know if you want to include that or not.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Sit over there.
Go ahead. She's a troublemaker, but you know.
Oh, she is. Prior to my book being finished, and then shortly after it came out, I started receiving phone calls from Linda Blood, who was reportedly a former girlfriend of Michael Aquino's. And the opening of each conversation was the same. She would always ask me how I was, and I'd say fine, and she would say, "Are you sure you're not sick yet?" And I would always say that I was fine, which I was. It used to concern me a great deal as to why she would ask me that question, except that I know that some of the people involved have ways to try and make someone else ill through a chemical or something like that introduced into their life. So I was sure that she was probably reporting any and all things that I said back to Michael Aquino. I have no way of proving that, but eventually the phone calls did stop, but I did receive quite a few for a period of time.
Rusty, anything more?
I was just wondering when George was going to start hosting his own TV show.
As the world turns with Noreen Gosch.
As the world turned upside down from Noreen Gosch.
You don't have one of these, why Johnny can't come home, do you, from Lincoln?
I don't.
Let's steal one of these from you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I got mine at home.
I think mine's out in Oregon.
I got, well, you sent me an autographed copy. Thank you.
Did you mention anything in this meeting that would be relevant, or would be relevant to the Franklin cover-up case about when you went to Governor Vilsack, who has hired Carrie's sister as our Department of Human Services, how he said it's a matter of public safety, not a matter for criminal investigation?
We went through that.
Yeah.
And by the way, folks, for an extra $50, I'm sure.
And he's the one kid that really knows what's going on. The others are in denial. The Gregenson.
Where do they live?
In New Jersey, South Jersey.
As you can see how Noreen Gosch spends her evenings nowadays. Now that she's a newlywed, she signs books. I guess that's what married life does to a person.
Here's your notebook back.
George, who would you
I made
like
some notes
yours
you
signed
can
too?
Did Pam get one?
I don't know if she has.
Why don't you grab one for her? Because she might like to see a picture
Yeah,
of you
I
in
think
it.
so.
Huh?
Yeah, let's put the date on
She'll
there.
probably
You got
have
your pen
me
there?
framed.
Put the date on
Well, see,
It'll
if I
be the
use
first
your,
time you're friends.
could I use your pen again? I want to put
Of
the
course.
date on here. You want the date
Put,
on here?
Christmas, put, December, I'll send this Christmas present, even though you're not with them on that date. It'll be in the form of a Christmas present, thank you.
Now, do you want today's date?
Yeah, might as well.
It's just the
29.
29th.
Yeah.
Did they ask you the question, what keeps you going, or why do you keep pushing forward? What's your objective?
That's a good
You're
question.
trying to- Which could be asked of yourself,
That's a good question.
asked of Ted, asked of John DeCamp, asked
Yeah.
of all of you.
You know
Yeah.
what, that you could
Why
ask
are
each
you
one of
doing
us
this?
that
Why
same
not?
question, whether you use it or not,
That's
but
a very good question. Let's get her on camera.
Why are you sacrificing
Yeah.
your
Your
personal
life.
life?
Yeah, it's very good.
many people ask me how I can keep going on after losing my son the way that I did. Or why do you keep going on? First of all, I'll answer the why. I keep going on because I love my son. And I feel very badly for what has happened to him and so many thousands of other children. If somebody doesn't rise up and say something and do something, it will continue to grow greater than it is already. If parents don't band together, those of us who've lost our children, and let the others know, then there'll be more victims. The old saying, the buck has to stop somewhere, or the buck stops here, is what I believe. They took the wrong kid when they took Johnny Gosch. How I keep going each day, I do it day by day. There are days that I go hour by hour. Some days are good days. But none of my days could ever be as bad as the days that my son had spent since he was ripped away from his home. And when I start to feel badly, when it starts to really tear at me, that's what I think about. That he is the true victim here, not me. I've had a terrible heartache, but I'm not the victim in this situation. It was a little 12-year-old boy that didn't do anything to anyone. And as long as I kind of jerk myself back by the collar, then I can straighten up and fly and make it to the next day and the next. And I thank God every day for my strength, mental and physical, and I'm very thankful for what I do have in my life, the people I have in my life that support me and love me and care.
Very good.
Yeah. Here's the one for Pam.
Well, take glass out of it, though.
Noreen, do you have my summary? I wrote a summary up on the Franklin case. Years ago, I wrote a summary, came in, closed them down.
Well, here's what happened. Wasn't Spotlight connected with the guy in
More
Warren?
copies or what's up?
But the gal in the office there told me that John Zelensky's been calling there a lot.
And Zelensky is.
And so I figured, well, if whoever he calls a lot, he goes into the whole story about. Over the past 20 years, I've seen a lot of different reactions to Johnny's kidnapping and the information surrounding missing children. Everything from disbelief to non-acceptance to the people who are the majority, which are the ones that are praying for you and wishing you well and cheering you on, because they know that what you're doing is trying to make a better system and a better, safer situation for their children. With the, what was the second point? I forgot the second.
The avenues you've been taking most recently.
Okay. The most recent avenues I've been taking to get the word out is talk shows, radio talk shows, network television whenever that becomes available, and then speeches when they are also requested in different communities. I give speeches and have for schools, civic organizations, churches, anyone who is interested in knowing about missing children and making their own children safer. I also have taken to the internet. I have a website which is www.johnnygosh.com, and on there's a way to connect to me through email. I answer all emails that come in, and I also am going to continue with as much publicity as I can generate for the whole missing children's issue, because I think that it's one that is easily forgotten, not thought of as much as it should be, because it is such a horrific crime. It makes people very afraid for their own children, and the word needs to be kept out there, and we need to keep moving.
Maybe a little bit of how it appears that the American public is tuning away from the news made for television to talking, directly talking to people over talk radio, where you're actually in person and talking to people over the phones, and there seems to be more of a conscious awareness of what's really going on.
Right.
Chat rooms, the internet, how much that's changed it.
Yeah. There seems to be a different turn with people and the news. The made-for-television news is not as appealing as much anymore because of the hype, and people are turning to alternative news media sources, both on the internet and Talk Free America Radio, the programs that are not censored, where you get the real truth about what is happening in our country and in our world.
Question I have. From your lecture speeches, the book, and so forth, how many other parents of kidnapped victims have been in contact with you?
Over the long 20 years that Johnny's been missing, I have been contacted by hundreds of parents that have had missing and sexually abused children. In some cases, the children are dead, they've been murdered, and the bottom line is, the result is, neither one of us, none of us, have our children. And the things that they want from me range from how to run an investigation when the police don't help you, how do you continue to survive the terrible tragedy, keep your job, and keep the other members of your family flying straight. I am considering writing another book on coping techniques, because there are ways to cope that are hands-on techniques that give you something tangible. And that's what people need, because when everything else in your world is turned upside down and you lose control of your world, that is when people become very frenzied, when others have complete control. And you can take some of that back in little ways, even though the kidnapper, the police, the press may be the large players in your life. You can do little things to have that feeling of control and some measure of balance again.
And of the parents who have contacted you, parents of the victims, have they had the same experience with law enforcement that you have? In other words, have some of them, all of them, a majority of them? What percentage?
The majority of the parents that have contacted me some have had difficulty with the police and law enforcement in the very beginning of their cases. Some have had cooperation in the beginning, and then it has turned sour, where the law enforcement either got tired of running leads or put the cases on the back burner and do not work them. And the parents then have nowhere to go. They don't know what to do. And a lot of people are not equipped financially to hire a private investigator. It's very costly. And so in that case, I give the parents ideas on how to do fundraisers to raise the money to get a good detective on the case. Because the key is you have to have somebody looking, somebody working the case.
Have they had the same experience, or what percentage have had the same experience as you with the FBI?
At this point in time, I have yet to have one set of parents tell me that the experience with the FBI has been a good one. The FBI has taken a very lax attitude towards missing children. It was not as important as it should have been. And evidence of that was when the racehorse, the prize-winning racehorse, Fran Ferluke, was missing. Someone had stolen it. And they gave attention to that and refused to work on Adam Walsh's case. And John Walsh cited that when we were at the Justice Department and testified, and he cited